Hi, I'm Walt Wager, and I'm doing this short lesson on the bowl gouge. In order to do the lesson on the bowl gouge, we'll have to have a bowl blank. This is a piece of walnut that's about a little over 2 inches thick and probably 6 inches or 5 or 6 inches around. We're going to start it between centers. I'm going to set the center. I'm just going to estimate where the center is on this block. With a mallet, tapping it in from each direction, to give it some bite in the wood. Bring up the tailstock, make the blank perpendicular to the bed. Get it in there good and tight. And I suspect this is out of balance. I can not too far off center, but I'm going to slow the lathe way down when I start it. You can see it vibrating a little bit. I'm going to turn it up just a bit. Now, to make this bowl round, I am not going to use, to make this blank round, I am not going to use a spindle roughing gouge. If I use the spindle roughing gouge, it's going to catch in the end grain. The grain is going this way on this blank, not this way like a spindle. The grain is going across or perpendicular to me, not parallel to the bed. And if this catches that end grain, it's really gonna dig in. So this is much too aggressive a tool to try to use to round off this blank. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bowl gouge and with the flute at about 2 o'clock, I'm going to come across this way while the blank is turning and round it out. Now the bevel should be parallel to the bed as I come across there. I'll zoom this in a bit and see if you can see what I'm talking about. So I've got the flute of the bowl gouge parallel to the bed, and I'm just going to bring it across slowly at about the flute is at about 2 o'clock. So this is 12 o'clock, this is 3 o'clock, the flute's at about 12 o'clock. I'm bringing just bring it apart and right. Stop for a second, move my tool rest. Come across again. Check to see if I'm round. I'm not. that's nice and round. Some people will say, well, you're wasting your time making it round at first because you can round it off as you shape the bowl. I think it's, as a beginner, the best idea is to make it round at first because it'll be more balanced. You can turn the speed up a little bit and then start shaping the bowl. So what I'm going to do now is use my bowl gouge to start shaping the outside of the bowl, coming from the back to the front. And I've got the flute at about 10 o'clock. I'm just going to come across like this, cutting about center. Stop, take a look at where I am, move the tool rest in. And you can see that's hitting the membrane there, taking too big a cut. So just back off a bit. Come around, make an even cut. Come around. I'll put this down here so you can see the bevel. And the bowl is beginning to take shape. I want to look at the bowl in terms of the profile I'm getting. I'm going to put a tenon down here so I can turn this around and put it in the chuck. But in the meantime, I want to get as smooth a cut as I can, coming this direction from the back to the top. Now, there's a lot of jargon in wood turning, and people will talk about a push cut being pushed from this edge to this edge on the bevel. Or they'll talk about a shear cut being with using the lower wing and shearing it around this way. When we haven't got enough room or support to do the push cut on the bevel, so I'm going to do a shear cut with the handle way down, and the wing, the flute right at 9 o'clock. And I'm shaping this to come in at the top a little bit, but my grain direction is going to be changing. Right here I'm cutting out this way with supported grain underneath, and when I come up to here with my shear cut, I want to come down the other way. adjusting my profile to see if I get the shape that I want on this walnut bowl. Okay, now I'm going to take the parting tool. I'm going to use the parting tool to put a tenon on here so I can grab it with the chuck. And I'm just going to come straight in. I want to undercut this a bit for my chuck. I have a dovetail chuck. So I'm going to use my spindle gouge, rest the flute right there on the 9 o'clock, and then pick up a cut and just push it in to get a dovetail for my chuck. That should be pretty good. I'm gonna shape the bowl a little bit more. Make the foot. I'm using the spindle gouge for this. I don't need to use the bowl gouge. And I cut off the bottom a little bit more. Using a shear cut using the spindle gouge. Okay. Now I can put my bowl into the chuck. And I can begin to hollow my bowl. Now, it's not a bad idea, you don't have to do this, but it's not a bad idea to bring the tailstock up until you remove some of the mass from that bowl. That's a little bit safer. You get a catch, it's not going to rip it off the lathe. I'm going to move the camera out to the end of the lathe so you can see a little better about what I'm doing. First thing I'm going to do is take my bowl gouge and I'm going to position my tool rest so that I can square off the rim. I don't need to square off everything. I'm going to take all this wood out anyhow, but out here I want a nice square rim. And I can do that by putting the bevel on the tip perpendicular to the bed lathe, and push it in like that. I should have a nice square rim. Now I'm going to start removing wood. And I can do that either by coming in from the rim like this, or coming out like this. Notice I don't usually use the bowl gouge straight up and down at 12 o'clock. I'm using it like at 11 o'clock, or I'm using it at 2 o'clock. Those wings, those sharp wings, are taking out a lot of wood. Coming around here to 9 o'clock. And come back around to 12 o'clock. Now, if I get that wing straight into the end grain like that, I'm going to get a catch. That's a catch is when the edge of the tool, the wing of the tool, grabs the end grain of the wood and it self-feeds into the wood and it makes it tears the wood apart. So we don't want catches. I've got a little bit of the mass out of there now. I've got a good square rim. I'm going to check the tightness again on my chuck because sometimes, especially if you're using green wood, the vibration will, or the compression will actually loosen, and then there's a problem, or there could be. So I'm going to take this very dry walnut. I'm going to take little bits off at a time. I'm not going to try to hog it all out one big scoop. For the smoothest cut, I'm going to take the tailstock off of the lathe. Just going to get in my way. I'm going to move you around so that you can see that I'm working from the end of the lathe. Move my tool rest. Move my tool rest so that when I'm cutting about at center. A little high. Cutting about at center, and I'm cutting from the outside of the largest diameter down to the smallest. You hear that vibration as I come across the end grain. Giving me resistance. So I'm going to take smaller cuts and just control the tool on the tool rest. To a little bit. I'm going to move the camera to the other side so you can see where the tool is actually cutting. And I'm using just the lower part of that bevel there to get started, get my cut started. What's happening is the tool is a little bit like this, and it's wanting to pull it out. So I've got to get it started straight, like this, so that it stays in the groove. Sometimes it's helpful, especially on a piece that's really dry like this, to take the parting tool and make a little groove that the bevel can start in. And then now this, one of the problems that I'm having here is that this, I can't keep this bevel on the wood because it's coming back up because this bevel is long. So that it could be ground so that it wasn't so long, and I could bring that bevel around. The other problem is that this is really dry wood, so that end grain is going to grab onto those sharp lanes. Come through the middle. A very light cut. Your last cuts or finishing cuts are very light cuts. That's not bad. We have still about a ½ inch on the bottom and a ¼ inch on the side, so a little bit more work to do here on the bottom. Round off this rim a little bit. So that's the bowl gouge. The bowl gouge again takes off a lot of wood because these wings are aggressive and very sharp. You keep the bevel on the wood as you come around from the inside and cross the bottom. On the outside, it's best to come from the bottom to the top. And the reason is that if I'm going in this way, those fibers coming across there are supported by the wood underneath. If I come up there this way, come out this way, I'm catching that end grain straight on, and that's not going to work. So I want to come down from the top and come in this way and have those end grain fibers supported by the wood underneath them so that I get a smooth cut.